Mike and Steve were having a little bit of a chat with the one and only Mike Tyson about his one-man show, Life Away from the Ring.
Now, a lot of fans listening to this, Mike, who relished what you did all those years ago in this country will be wondering, what are you up to now?
Well, I'm promoting fights. I'm using Iron Mike Productions, where I'm promoting young fighters and having fights. I got my memoir coming out shortly, and I'm doing my one-man show. And I'm just trying to stay busy. And like I said before, I'm very grateful that people, the fans all over the world, still have an interest in me as a human being, more so than just a fighter.
Were you surprised at the reaction to your show on Broadway? Because some of the reviews were really sparkling reviews, weren't they?
Hey, listen, the only thing I worry about, I want to have the same reviews over in London, because as we know, the English and the Americans have a different sense of humor. Because in America, they think it's a comedy. You know, I'm talking to people about my life and my family. I don't know who my father is, and everybody's laughing. I'm saying, whoa. So I don't know how they're going to take it over in London.
How much of your life in and out of the ring do you lay bare on the stage, Mike?
Oh, I'm emotionally naked on the stage. I'm doing everything. There's no hold bars.
And before you're going on, do you feel like you did in the days before a big fight in terms of getting yourself up for the performance?
Oh, absolutely. The only difference is I don't have to go to the hospital after the performance.
Are you still as exhausted, though, afterwards, Mike? And do you actually put in sometimes just a bit of an extra, maybe the extra round, the 13th, the 14th and the 15th round?
Hey, listen, you're going to have to tell me. Listen, I'm exhausted after the show. It's close to 2 hours I'm on stage, so, you know, I'm exerting a lot of energy because I go through a few stages where I get in the fights with Mitch Green, and so I have to be pretty much athletic on stage.
And is this a good money spinner for you, Mike? Is that important to you these days now?
Hey, I'm always willing to make a buck like everyone else, but listen, I'm not going to make a whole bunch. I'm not going to get rich doing this stuff. You know, I'm going to pay some bills, and at the end of the day, I may be able to pay for the mortgage on the house. But other than that, man, life is great.
And people, you know, they talk about how much you lost during your career and all those many highlights. Do you have regrets about that? And in a nutshell, how did you spend all that money?
Hey, listen, I don't have no regrets about that, because when I had all that money, I couldn't get nothing done. Everything was a disaster and chaotic. So I don't even have a tenth of that, and I'm just living my life, you know, pretty functional and out of chaos. So that's, you know, that in itself is just proof that life can go on and life can be successful and healthy without money.
Is there anyone around in your life, Mike, who was there in the very early days? You know, is there anyone you could describe as a friend for life in your life?
Hey, listen, the only thing I'm worried about right now is what I'm doing with myself. I can't worry about my friends for life. I can't worry about nobody. The only thing I can worry about is now. No thing matters now, the moment.
But there have been people, certainly in the last 10 years, Mike, that have had your best interests at heart. I mean, I don't think the people in the last 10 years have been perhaps as cold and harsh as the previous.
That doesn't matter. I need to have my best. I never had my best interests at heart, and that's really where everything stems from, is myself. It doesn't stem from no one else. No one can make me do anything I don't want to do, and no one can make me, when I really want to make a fool out of myself, make a fool out of myself. No one can stop me from that.
Well, that was Mike Tyson talking to Mike and Steve. Quick score update for you. Warrington 12, Huddersfield 10 now in the Super League playoff. Commentary on Sports Extra, and England's women now lead Turkey 8-0. Natasha Dowie, the latest scorer. Let's talk about Mike Tyson. Steve, he's had his demons, and even recently so.
Yeah, just recently, about 6 weeks ago, he had a show. He promoted a show, as he called it, Iron Mike Promotions. Their first show was shown in America on ESPN, and both fighters were cut in the main event, so they went off to hospital. So he showed up at the press conference afterwards, and people couldn't believe it. And he sat down, and I've been at some of these press conferences when he's done this, and he just looks up, he's quiet for a second, and you're even quieter. And he just went into one. It was deep, it was dark, it was horrible, it was atrocious, it was sickening, it was stunning. And he just said, you know, I've been living a lie. Again, this was like not what he said 10 years ago. This was 4 weeks ago. He said, I've been living a lie. He said, just 6 days ago, I was drunk, I was using drugs, I was fornicating, I was paying for prostitutes. And he just went, and these guys were sitting there thinking they were going to be having to take quotes from two guys doing 8 3-minute rounds. And they were just going, I'm in heaven, I've hit pay dirt. And they scribbled it. And this guy had a mental breakdown in front of them. He was spotted at the Mayweather fight, Mike, by various people. We know Steve Lillis. And Steve Lillis said it looked like a guy who was related to Mike Tyson, but only 30 years older.
But there's something sad, isn't there? He talked about doing this one-man show on stage in America and describing how he never knew his father, and the Americans laughing because they thought he was doing a comedy act. I mean, there's not a great deal that's funny about that, is there, really?
I know, and there is an element of us expecting these people to be superheroes when you remember what he did in the ring all those years ago. And I remember talking to somebody called Steve Lott, who used to live with him in an apartment in New York and was attached to his promotional and management team. And he used to say at the time there were more kids wanted to be Mike Tyson than wanted to be Michael Jordan. And it's almost impossible to believe that now. And you think of all the great names that have won the world heavyweight title. I think there are something like 120 of them. He's the youngest that ever did it. That counts for something. There's an argument to be had and a long debate to be had about where he sits in the all-time rankings, because at world championship level, at the absolutely highest level, when he faced adversity in the ring against Buster Douglas and twice against Evander Holyfield, he couldn't find the answer. But the youngest ever to hold that most cherished belt must rank highly.
And there was a period there, and I know Mike and I, we've disagreed on this. We don't disagree on very much. We disagree on this. There was a period there's a 2-year period where I would take Mike Tyson when he was 19, 20, 21, and I would put him in with any heavyweight at their best in history. I'm not saying he'd beat them, but I tell you what, that 19, 20 month period, he would compete. But there's a case saying that when he was 22, 23, Tyson was already, as we say in boxing, shot to bits. And I've done shows with him. I've done one-man shows with him. I've done about 20 one-man shows with him. Not that you'd know it, because he fails to recognise you every morning when you meet for breakfast. And I can assure you that the crowd here are silent when he's talking, and when he's nearly crying and talking about not knowing his dad and his mother being a junkie and his sister being this and people robbing him and taking money and people trying to kill him. The people are shouting out, "We still love you, Mike. We love you, Mike." And there's grown men, fat guys with fat heads and tattoos crying. The crowds here do respond differently to him. In America, he's just the latest in the long line of black comedians getting up bearing his soul on a stage.
And Steve, where I won't part company with you is in the impact that he made. And that has to be another important part of the whole judgment, the impact he made. Because when he won the world title at the age of 20 in November 1986, as Steve knows, I was coaching at a club, the Lynn Club in South London at the time. And the fight happened on a Saturday night, Sunday morning our time. It was readily available here. If I remember rightly, it was televised live on ITV. And on the Monday evening, we turned up at our club routinely at 6 o'clock in the evening. There were 12 lads out there waiting to join up. Now, earlier in the year, somebody from our manor, as they say, Lloyd Hunnigan, had won the world welterweight title in an amazing fight against Don Curry. Mike Tyson beating Trevor Berbick that night, for us, in that tiny corner of South London, had a bigger impact than the local guy who'd done similar earlier in the year. He did have an amazing effect on the sport when it was good for him, and it was good for boxing too.